A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house. I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms. I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back. The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to. The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent, as if they're about to say something but never do. The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Puta, pero qué casa, ¿no? Un poquito abstracta.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house. I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me. Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I
Aunque
was
me enseñara
11.
mucho modo de colarme por la trampilla del perro.
For the first time in years,
Por primera vez en años
I felt like I was home.
me sentía como en casa.
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one. Like how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot. Or how after Louis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
Excepto Molly, nuestra gata.
The table was still a wreck from the night we
La
left.
mesa todavía estaba desde la noche.
Nothing in the house looked abnormal.
No había
There
nada
was
como
just
que fuera
too much of it,
simplemente
like a
una
smile with too many teeth.
como una sonrisa con demasiados dientes.
Even the fireplace had a story.
Hasta la chimenea
Edie
tenía
told me the
historia.
bricks
Ahí
came from the
veía que
original
los
house
ladrillos procedían
after
del
it
original
sank.
después de que se hundía.
Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for
El
Barbara,
diseñador fabricó una caja de
along with
música
the rest of the
para
house.
además del resto de la casa.
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
No lo dejo encajar. Bueno, entonces por acá no puedo ir todavía. Esta es la caja de música que ya la hice.
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last
Esa
night.
noche en medio de todo el alboroto muchas cosas se quedaron atrás.
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she
No,
never
nunca
stopped
fue muy
believing that my
optimista,
brother
pero no
Milton was
puedo creer
alive.
que mi hermano Milton está vivo. Como para que no entraran, ¿no?
After Milton disappeared, Mom
Después de
sealed
la
up all the
desaparición de Milton,
bedrooms.
mi madre selló todas las
Then Edie
habitaciones.
retaliated and drilled peepholes.
Después Eddie reaccionó haciendo unos agujeros a modo de mirilla.
Whenever people ask me about my
La
family,
gente pregunta por
the first thing they
mí,
always want to
primero
know
que
about is
le importa
Barbara.
su interés es Bárbara.
Barbara was a child star for 2 years,
Una es
until
infantil
America grew out of
años
it.
hasta que América se cansó.
Edie's father Odin built the original
Como el
house.
padre de Eddie construyó la casa con él.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the
Voy a
night we left.
reservar la escalera del primer planta de la noche en que nos marchamos. Falta por allá y por acá vamos primero a ver.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great
Pasé mucho
Uncle
tiempo
Walter's
jugando
room.
en la habitación del tío abuelo
I think
Walter.
my mom sometimes regretted
Creo que a
not sealing
veces
it
mi
up.
madre se arrepintió de no haberla sellado.
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I
Él me
never
dijo que
believed him.
había pasajes secretos, pero yo nunca lo creí.
Turns out, my mom was really good at
Resulta
keeping
que mi madre
secrets.
se le daba muy bien guardar secretos.
Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid
Ahora
of.
había llegado el momento de descubrir qué es lo que le había tenido miedo a mi madre.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
Es evidente que mi hermano Milton había estado allí antes que yo.
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had
Al
a
leer esto
plan,
tal vez parezca que yo tenía un plan,
but I had no idea what was
pero no
behind that
tenía
door.
idea de que había detrás de la puerta.
Just like I had no idea where all this was
Igual que
gonna
no tenía
lead.
ni idea de a dónde iba a conducir todo esto.
I grew up looking at Molly's room through
Ella
the
creció
peephole.
mirando la habitación de Molly a través de la mirilla.
Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own
El
even
gerbo de Molly
tinier
tenía
gerbil
un
cage.
pequeño dormitorio con su propia jaula, aunque muy más pequeña. Molly.
Being inside for the first time, I felt like
Al
I'd
estar
stepped
dentro por
behind a
primera vez me
painting.
sentí como si hubiera estado entrando en un cuadro.
I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of
Tenía la
time here
sensación de que Eddie había pasado mucho
before my
tiempo
mom
aquí,
sealed the doors.
antes de que mi madre sellara las puertas. Molly, 1900... ¿Qué era eso? 31 al 41, 10 años. Molly Finch.
December 13th,
13
1947.
de diciembre del
Dear
47,
Diary,
querido
I'll
Diana.
be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody
Contarle
about
a
what's
alguien que
gonna
está
happen.
a punto de suceder,
It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner.
sin cenar.
I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
I kept eating and eating.
Se intoxicó.
I ate a lot of things that night. Then I heard chirping outside my window.
Fuera de la ventana.
It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
Era un gato.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really
Intentó no hacer
scared.
ruido, pero el pájaro estaba... Pinche pájaro, vení para acá.
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
Ni siquiera la miraron.
The babies were all gone.
Pero los bebés se habían despertado.
I jumped and I almost got her.
Salté y casi la alcanzo.
I could tell she was getting really tired.
Cada vez estaba más cansada.
Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
Esa mamá pájaro.
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl.
Era una lechuga.
First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
¿Qué hubo, Gilbert? ¿Bien o qué? Nandito, saludos también. ¿Qué pedo con ese juega? Gilbert, ¿te has pillado este juego? Este juego es bacanísimo. Hace años, cuando recién salió, me lo pillé. Bueno. Como medio psicodélico, pero muy buen juego, parce.
Rabbits.
Conejos.
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't
Lo
chew
morí con
one
un
bit.
modo
Then I flew off to find something bigger.
a buscar algo mejor.
A mama rabbit.
Venga para acá.
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
Ah, tiburón.
I rolled off the cliff and into the ocean.
Era que no sé.
Now, I was hungrier than ever.
Ahora tenía más hambre. ¿Dónde estaba lo que por ahí acá andaba? Pero mi papá me prometió uno.
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
No para acá, desgraciado.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
¿Qué hizo? ¿Qué hizo? Dale.
I grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
¿Y ahora qué se que es?
Now I was a monster, and I smelled
Era un
people
monstruo que
everywhere.
podía oler la gente por todas partes. También está dando oficio porque él está en Estados Unidos y por eso no puede, pero puede dañar. Ah, no, claro.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
y se lo come la porquería esta. Es mejor que le mande, parce, es mejor que le mande la plata y que lo compre.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
Quería parar, pero al mismo tiempo no quería. Estoy por acá. Una canción pirata.
After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And to cross the water, I spotted the new, something I had to have, so I swam towards it.
Así que nada, está allí.
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Me deshice por la arena y el agradable aroma me llevó hasta una vieja tubería. A ver, no lo pueden dañar. Lo mismo he dicho. Pero acá sale más cara. Sale como a $1500. Es una banda, no sé cuánto cuesta ahora. Pero es que ¿cuál te querés comprar? $1500 que una consola, la guamas. Pero vos decís la Play 5. No, la Play 5 ya está más barata, ¿no? Acá en Colombia están como en 2,5 millones, que hay 3. Eso viene con $800 o menos. Es más, yo creo que ya deben de estar incluso más baratas. Este no sube por acá, no sube. Salgamos entonces.
I got closer and closer.
Me voy acercando cada vez más. Ah, pues esta es la habitación de ella. Todos mis
All
estómagos
my stomach started growling,
empezaron a hacer ruido.
and suddenly I was
y de
beacon.
repente volví a ser
I
yo.
held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep.
Creo
But
que está
it's not
esperando a
going to
que me
wait much
duerma,
longer. It needs
pero
to
no va a
be,
esperar
and we
mucho
both
tiempo,
know I will be delicious.
que yo estaré delicioso. O sea, ¿se murió de una intoxicación o se la comió el
I'm
monstruo?
not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
Pero seguro que él lo habría creído. ¿Y no será ya de gato?
This will be obvious later, but my mom never
Más
told
tarde,
me
pero
any
mi
of these
madre nunca
stories.
me contó ninguna de esas
Edie would
historias.
have, but mom didn't like bringing up
Ella
the
lo habría
past.
hecho, pero a mi madre no le gustaba lo que
Though,
le pasaba.
when we adopted a stray kitten,
Porque cuando
she was the
un
one who named
gatito
it Molly.
abandonado, ella quien le llamó Molly.
I spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's
Quería
room.
pensar que tenía... No, yo casi jugando en la Xbox, parcero. Acá en la Xbox One, normal, la normalita, pues. Solía pasar mucho tiempo en la habitación de la bisabuela.
We got along, and it was a good place to hide from my
Nos llevamos
mom.
bien y era un buen lugar donde esconderme de mi madre.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
Pero no lo hizo.
Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
Incluso después de comerme la vida, mucho más joven que mi madre.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife, Kay, left on the
El
house
único
was
rastro
the
que hay,
pink
la primera
bathroom.
esposa del abuelo Sam dejó atrás en sí
It was a
en la
pretty
casa.
big trace.
Fue un rostro muy notorio.
There's a secret in this bathroom.
Un secreto en el baño.
It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard.
No está en el
It's
armario.
hidden in this book.
Está escondido en este libro. Hue pucha, casa más rara. Listo, parcero. Gracias. Y esto es que una sala de revelación de fotos.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it
Que
down.
no había reparado, nunca la soltaba. Oh. Ah, para ver cuánto mide. Uno, dos. Parmesan, Fort Calvin, fortaleza, ok.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin,
Sabía que el abuelo Sam tenía un gemelo
and that he never talked about him.
y nunca habló de él. Tu command center, comando central.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Las historias del pasado le gustaban tan poco como a mi madre.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
Ah, el peladito que me dolió.
My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom.
Que moría antes de
And he did.
comerse otro champiñón y así fue.
At Barbara's funeral, we swore
En el funeral de
he'd
Bárbara,
never be afraid again. And he wasn't.
miedo y no le tuvo.
I think Calvin always wanted to
Calvin
fly.
siempre quiso volar.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready!
Ah, señor.
But that day,
Ya bueno,
he finally made up his mind to do it.
por fin decidió hacerlo.
I told him going around was impossible.
Tiene que ir a era imposible.
Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin!
Ah, se va a matar.
I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it.
Pero le digo,
I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother.
eso es lo que quiero recordar de mi mamá.
The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Y lo hizo esa pescada, la mató.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing. After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
Calvin.
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Esta habitación.
The passages were a pretty tight fit.
Era muy estrecho.
They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
Hasta el de Bárbara.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Como una estrella infantil.
never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Después para ella.
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. She played her part beautifully. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. It wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet. The hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was... At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? Hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending. I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box. It's funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key. Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot. I saw Edie sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages. I thought maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that.
Mucho más que eso.
I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Sí, definitivamente han muerto por todo.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can.
Básicamente volvió un paranoico.
I know it's out there somewhere.
Sé que está allá afuera en algún lugar.
Whatever killed Barbara
Lo que fuera que mató a Bárbara.
and Molly
Y a Molly,
and Calvin.
a Calvin.
Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
Otro que se murió.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me.
Bueno, si yo me trato de volver ciego. Pues por lo visto sí. Ah, pues es que es un cuadro.
Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made.
No, ¿qué es esto? Por Dios.
Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe 2, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real. I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Lost now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house,
Y cuando miras
that
la
history of
casa,
imagination and
la
stubbornness
historia de
and madness,
imaginación, obstinación,
any of it
locura,
seems possible.
toda esa parte es posible. Gracias, Migex360. A ver, para allá, como que devuelvo la casa, no me deja. A ver, por acá me va a pasar. Entonces por acá.
I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it.
Ya me hemos acostumbrado.
What kind of family finishes building a
¿Qué
cemetery
clase de
before
familia
starting the
construye un
house?
cementerio antes de empezar la casa? No, pues que como todos mueren, todos van muriendo trágicamente.
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one. Three of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault.
Ah,
Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery.
la que ella que convirtió en gato. En fin, el que salió volteando. Edith Finch. Todavía falta ese. Ah, este fue el que lo atropelló el tren. Bárbara que la comieron. Literal y figurativamente hablando.
I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea.
Fue idea de él. Odín es cual, Odín es uno de los más viejos.
My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away.
Y Eddie es cual, el más viejo también.
She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
Cuando la marea estaba baja.
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night.
Ah, vale, ya estuvo la casa antigua. Y entonces, ¿qué más aquí hago?
Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better.
Milton Fitch.
She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along. For me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing,
Que subir tanto.
I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant.
No habría venido embarazada y pues hombre.
I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common.
Mucho en común.
They were both pretty intense. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something.
Vete.
Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Para ir a buscar, en su busca. A ver. Mira el viejito.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? Please just take the damn picture.
Hey, language.
I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
Vale, ya está.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are.
Aw. You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though.
Listo, parce. Gracias.
definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I definitely won't be moving. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Nothing quite like being outside. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Don. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Don, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere. I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time. Give me a minute to check the map. Don, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph? Let's see. Maybe. Was it? Could have been.
Dad!
Good eyes, Don.
Un ciervo.
Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Let me get behind you.
Do I have to do this?
Don, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Now keep yourself squared up, elbows down, like we practiced, whenever you're ready. Great shot, Don!
Mucho papá.
I'm proud of you, Don. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Don. Just gotta reset the timer.
Down.
Hang on, kiddo. Just trying to get a shot of the two of us together.
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Ah. Bien hecho.
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Y la hija tuvo que verlo morir. Como muertes trágicas todas.
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Madre.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Creo que hay cosas que los demás nos...
Watching over Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. He reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was, he saw. It sure made him happy. I know how silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want Grapefruit to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand about Gregory, about everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
Un añito nomás. Gregory. Gregory down. Goose.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. Father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, "We don't need a stepmom," were the words that I
now
remember.
pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger.
Que no voy a repetir.
The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. Thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus. My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Down.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
No, acá hay ver más cosas, ¿no? Vamos a ver si hay más cosas de la historia, porque aquí que queda la historia ahí medio corta.
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died.
Holy Bible, Sagrada Biblia.
My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Vea pues, le tenía una materia a cada peladito de esos. Milton, Lewis, Down.
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
No, pero es que estas casas como la amplían.
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
Casi normal. A-D-A-H-L-A-L.
But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Le regaló un castillo. Y todo haciendo la embarazada, pues.
I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
El pincel mágico.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Lo mataron o qué diablos.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors.
El peladito desapareció aquí.
Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Bueno, de aquí vengo. O sea que los traje esto acá.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Es como medio peligrosa esta mierda acá, ¿no? Ay, le gustaba hasta la
Louis's
maraca
room
facha.
smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Pues le gusta la maraca chafa.
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to
¿Empezó a qué? ¿Cómo agarró eso? ¿Qué?
wander.
Ah, vale. Empezó a vagar.
I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. Made and songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a
Por supuesto que no puede estar ahí.
handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for
Serpientes siniestras.
sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her
Arpa de plata.
silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Pues con la droga y todo, hermano.
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him.
No,
Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Compañía de sentimiento, viejo, hijo de madre.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Hacen falta dos. Eddie y Odín. ¿Más para arriba? Sí, más para arriba.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing.
Empezar a hacer las maletas.
She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind.
No, pues claro. Para enseñar y para aprender. 7 maneras de crear Don Finch.
What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another.
All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
Sobre esta última noche.
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
A ver. ¿Y qué se supone que hay por acá?
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house.
Remache de la casa.
Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
¿Quién dormía acá o qué?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born.
¿En qué naciste?
That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends.
Esto ni idea qué es. Del bebé tal vez.
That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it. But she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Pues muy bonita la historia.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't. Her room was like a museum. Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him.
For 500 years, the finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan. On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edith, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
Bueno, listo todas las historias.